Alright, next up is Rango, and this is a really big mashup of a lot of old Western films, and it's just a big fuster-cluck and that plays a lot and throws the rule book, if you will, away from animation. And who can blame it? I mean, in my opinion, despite the fact that there are a lot of good animated films out there, a lot of great animated films out there, I'm looking for a little something different, especially after Romeo and Juliet, which was not a very good movie at all. And I love how they do this with just really eye-stunning critters and varmints, and it's a hero's tale, I guess if you will, of a chameleon desperate for an SAG card. And I gotta say, who else better than to give this chameleon life than a man who can breathe life into a freaking statue in a movie? That is Johnny Depp, of course. He is the man behind Rango. Now, this is a town desperate for a sheriff, but this is going to be a lot of fun. Now, I love the fact that this is directed by Gore Verbinski, who's of course behind the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, and he did it with, guess what? No 3D here, people, none. And this is still stunning the way this is shot, and they're breaking the rules of animation. This is actually the first project from Industrial Light and Magic, which is of course the company owned by George Lucas, of Star Wars fame. And they really just go beyond the realm here of normal animation. And this is a time-bending, mind-bending, just go-with-it story that really shifts from an overcluttered, I guess you could say, freeway to, Hawaiian shirts and modern problems and covered wagons and chaps and long-running issues of water rights and land and whatnot. But it's all done in a genuinely funny way, and there's a lot of good throwbacks to a lot of the old Western films with Clint Eastwood or even John Wayne. There's even some throwbacks here to Chinatown with Jack Nicholson, which wasn't a Western but still had that that feel to it. There's also some throwbacks to Blazing Saddles, the movie making fun of all the Westerns. So really, you can almost cite a little. If you look carefully, if you're a big fan of those movies, you can see it. You can see the influence of all those films in this film. Now, again, I gotta say, too, that the first feature Verbinski directed was Mouse Hunt, which was a movie back, I believe, in 1998, if I'm not mistaken, that starred Lee Evans and Nathan Lane. And again, the movie itself was actually pretty good. I laughed a lot during it. It wasn't a hit, though. It bombed at the box office, and most critics panned it. But yet, the objects of that film really stood out, so you could see that he was really onto something here. And of course, Verbinski went on to much, much more greater fame as time went on, but Verbinski just has a way of really extenuating everything about a movie to make it not only look good, but the fact that it looks so good is what helps the already entertainment value of his films even better. And it's like a fine mix. You can't dash too much of one or the other, but separately they might work okay. But when you mix them together properly with the right ingredients, just the right amount, Verbinski does that expertly here with this film. Now, again, I gotta say too that Johnny Depp, the man can do anything. I mean, I just don't know if there's something that he can't do anymore. And that's a good thing. I mean that in a good way. I think Johnny Depp can try anything and will succeed with it. In my opinion, he already has. I don't know if there's much more he can do in his career, really, that hasn't been done. But knowing Hollywood, he will try. Now, again, I gotta say too that you gotta be ready for an adventure here. This is the type of film where, the hero is given that sort of dimensional personality that, I guess the three-dimensional personality that Depp just does to his characters. Why should an animated film be any different? I find that people just get lazy with animated films and stick big stars like Depp in them to do the voices just to add appeal to it. I remember there was a time when they didn't even put credits on the voices for cartoons way back when. Because actually, to be honest with you, a lot of the earliest Disney cartoons, a lot of them were unknowns. A lot of them weren't really big names. They were just voiceover artists. But as time has gone on, since I say the 90s, because The Lion King, if you think about it, had a lot of famous names, as did Aladdin with Robin Williams. I think Aladdin with Robin Williams kind of broke that mold of more famous actors doing voiceover work. But again, it's what you do with it. You got to have the right guy for it, and obviously Depp is the perfect guy. Now, the screenplay is done by John Logan here, who's behind such films as Gladiator and The Last Samurai, both tremendous films. And him and Verbinski together just honestly do this so well. Now, I gotta say too that the adventure this creature takes, named Rango, that takes to a town named Dirt that looks something out of High Plains Drifter, another Western reference, is complete with a saloon, and before you know it, Lars has embraced the role of a lifetime. He steals the Rango moniker from a beer bottle and pins it on that badge, and sets about high nooning the rivals like in Western films. Now, this lizard is really vivid, I gotta say. He's not just a plain lizard or chameleon or whatever. And it's ironic that lizards chameleons can change color, because really the color, I think, kind of ties into the personality of what is within him. And to my opinion, to get that kind of animated character, that kind of depth, is what DreamWorks, well, them too sometimes, Pixar does so well, is drawing within the dimensions of their personality to make him seem like a realistic character. And you forget that I don't forget he's a lizard, but again, he's what he is. And a lizard named Beans in this film, voiced by Isla Fisher, who's of course Mrs. Sacha Baron Cohen, and of course the psycho from Wedding Crashers, is really trying to figure out where the water's gone, and just trying to figure out things in general. She seems like very well on her toes, but at the same time, she's intrigued by what's going on around her. And Depp and Fisher really dominate this film in their characters, and but because of its sprawling, ensemble cast, there's a lot of standouts. There's Abigail Breslin as Priscilla, a precious young mouse. Alfred Molina as a spirit warrior armadillo named Roadkill, and I'd say that's it's really funny sight gig. And Bill Nighy's bad guy known as Rattlesnake, perfect voice for it. And Ned Beatty as the stone-fisted tortoise for a mayor. He's really, really well done here too. And I gotta say, the look of this film is done like in an old storybook fashion, and one of the most creative animated films that I could possibly think of, because it really, honestly, just goes beyond. Again, I can't say it enough. It goes beyond what it is limited to. But it doesn't go over the top doing it. It is a very weird movie. There's some things kids won't get. It's more for adults, I think. But I gotta say too that it combines, there's some like little sight gags that kids will still enjoy, kind of like the Shrek films. But really, I think more so this will be made for more so the adult audience. And it's not like I don't mean adults in art. I just mean adults, and they'll get what's going on more than the kids probably would. But despite that, the kids don't always really exactly get what's going on in every movie they see, even if it is a cartoon. And I gotta say, with an eclectic bunch of characters, and it's just an eclectic film in general, this film is what animation should be all about. Which is why Rango is the first great film I've seen this year, and I give it, the perfect 5.